again with another tank build video here. Today we are going over the Warden tank. This is the tank that I had used to get Unchained, as I released a video about recently. So, to start off with the build video, as per usual, we're going to start off with our character sheet. We are running 35 Magicka in our attributes and 29 health. We are also a Nord on this build, and we are running the Lord Mundus Stone for the additional health. It's always a benefit, love it. We're also running our Bewitched Sugar Skulls for the additional max health, max magicka, max stamina, and health recovery. And for our gear, let's start off there. We are using a Nernhoned main hand. You could do defending on this, as we are not as dependent on our spell and weapon damage on this one, but I just tend to prefer the Nernhoned trait, so that's of course as I'm running here. We are running a prismatic enchantment for a sturdy shield, and we are running an ice staff of Alkosh on our back bar with a crusher enchantment. Alkosh is a fantastic set for the style build, as we are more been focusing in this channel about doing additional damage as a tank, not just being a tank or self-healing ourselves. And like, of course we will still self-heal, but not so dependent on relying on, well, we trust our healers. That's the easiest way to put it. We trust our healers, and we're going to provide enough heals to heal ourselves out of the situations we put ourselves in, but we trust our healers to be able to do their job as well. If you have healers that you're not as certain about, running more self-healing gear is definitely fine, or skills, that's fine. Monster set we're running, as I've been loving recently, is Thurvican. This set's not entirely required. I do like it for the additional, more of a guarantee, but as a Warden, and as we'll go into later, we have a very high rate of chilled proc, so we don't entirely need Minor Mayhem as a skill or as a gear option, but I do really enjoy this for the more consistent proccing of it, as well as the additional damage it provides. We are in all heavy in this build with a sturdy ebon chest. We have a reinforced shoulder, which ideally would be sturdy, but reinforced is a great trait for it as well. We do have the ebon. The rest of our ebon is sturdy, but the pants have a prismatic lift on them, just for the additional health for us, as well as healing taken, and to provide additional health for our allies nearby us. Makes it a wonderful set, especially because we are a Warden, and we also provide minor toughness to the group. So we kind of double down. We can give well over 2k health to the team, depending on their build. We can even give upwards of 3k at times, or more to other tanks as well, especially. So it's a very fantastic combination with the Warden. We are also running Alkosh jewelry, 2 pieces healthy, 1 piece robust, with all magicka recovery on this, as since we're more leaning into the magicka style damage, most magicka skills actually scale better off their max magicka resource than they do the spell damage. Spell damage of course helps, but it's not as dependent on it. For our skills, we of course are running Ransack to provide the minor protection, and we will go more into why we use this one specifically, as we could have minor protection in our toolkit through a different skill, but I'll explain why we don't do that. So, next we have Fetcher Infection. This is going to do a nice little DOT, as well as an increased dot every second time we cast it, but the key thing is we can provide minor vulnerability to the group, so our enemies, not only do they take 6% more damage from our Alkosh as long as our teammates are not over penetrating, but we also provide an additional 8% through this skill alone. So it's a very fantastic skill to be pairing alongside with our other abilities to increase our team's damage. We're running Blue Betty, also partially for the passes we will discuss later, but it's also for the sustain and major sorcery and major brutality. And the reason why we're not running the Ice Fortress Warfare is we went with Expansive Cloak. With Expansive Cloak, we were able to give a 20-second major resolve to our entire team within 28 meters, the same radius as Ebon. So if they're in your Ebon, you're going to be able to give your team major resolve. Once you have this mastered at the uptime, this can free up skills for your teammates, this can free up skills and provide additional defenses across the board. It is a fantastic skill to have. It's one of the best things that Warden can bring in its toolkit. The other thing we have is we're running Arctic Blast. You could run the other morph, but specifically for Unchained, The best thing about Warden's chain pull, which we'll discuss later, is that it's not a hard CC. So enabling us to pull a bunch of trash enemies, as well as providing a little additional damage and being able to stun them once we've already pulled them in. Not to mention, because of Warden's high chill proc rate, we have tons of root power just naturally in our toolkit with all this ice damage. We can be chilling and immobilizing enemies all the time. And this is a fantastic complement to that entire style of controlling the battlefield. We do run Northern Storm on our front bar, so that way if we do need to use it as a defensive ultimate, we also get the addition of the 15% higher max magicka for 30 seconds, which is fantastic as it's another slow on our enemies, which just complements our ability to control a fight and root things down to the core. On our back bar, we are running Frozen Device. With Frozen Device, this is our chain pull. It is a high skill gap kind of, high skill ceiling kind of chain pull compared to traditional ones. But the benefit is you can pre-chain on arenas. You can chain them before they're even out of their portals. You can, it not only does it have a chance because it does deal frost damage to immobilize them, but it provides the additional benefit of giving major mayhem to anything you pull. With major mayhem being within the pool of debuffs, that actually increases group survivability by a tremendous amount. As we are wearing Thurvican and dealing lots of frost damage, we are going to have tons of high uptimes on major mayhem and minor mayhem to make it so we can just root things all around. The next thing we're running is our Blockade of Frost. So with our Blockade of Frost, it's going to deal passive damage and reduce our enemy's movement speed when they're in it. And every now and then it will immobilize and freeze our enemies for 4 seconds in place. It's fantastic for that. We are running Gripping Shards, as this does scale with our max health as well, which makes it very powerful, dealing almost 2k damage per second in content for an additional 12 seconds. It has a higher rate of proccing Chilled, and it decreases our enemy's movement speed even further when they're in it. We also have set it up to, it's essentially also our immobilize. This is how we're going to immediately root them in place and then further immobilize them over time. Next, we're running Leeching Vines, which is going to give us an additional heal per second when we are getting smacked, but the benefit is with this morph, it gives us minor lifesteal on the targets that hit us. And since we are a main tank or sometimes the solo tank, this would make it so that way we are able to proc minor toughness throughout the entire group, so that way everyone gets that additional 10% more health. We are running Inner Beast as our stamina range taunt, as we are more mag heavy, so using an additional stamina skill is not intensive for our resources. And we are running, of course, Aggressive Horn for the additional max magicka, max stamina, and major force for the team. For our animal companion skills, we do have a majority of these open. If you'd like to run the bear at times, that's totally fine. It can be an additional great way of providing more damage passively through the group if the group damage isn't high enough for Warhorn or Permafrost to be totally viable for you. We do have Cutting Dive. It's not really that necessary though. We do have Deep Fissure for the AoE Major Breach if we do need to provide that debuff as well. And with Falcon Swiftness, we do want to morph this to the morph that provides us with minor evasion, in case you ever need that. But what's nice about Animal Companions, why we have the Betty Netch on the front bar, is, as of course we are typically on our front bar, but when any of our Animal Companion dies, we get a passive heal, which is just a nice little thing for when we need to spam purge ourselves with our Betty. But every time we cast a Betty, within 8 seconds, which is pretty much every time we'll have to cast it, is after beyond that duration, we do get 4 extra ultimate. Whenever we have an animal companion ability slotted, we do get 12% additional max magicka and stamina recovery, which is very helpful. And of course we get a 2% additional damage. Not entirely important, but it does exist. With our Green Balance skill line, we have our Enchanted Forest for the extra ulti gen and way to give it burst AoE Ring of Healing if our team desperately needs to have the additional healing support. Enchanted Growth is nice if you want to use it, but Budding Seeds is our go-to if we need an additional AoE heal over time. Lotus Blossom and Burst Vines, they are decent. I have them available if I do need them, but majority of the time I don't use them. With Winter's Embrace, we do have our Northern Storm, our Expansive Cloak. Pretty much all these skills except Shimmering Shield is always on our bar. We could use Shimmering Shield in like VCR, so that way if we need to, we can actually dodge roll the Nocturnal's Favor from Zamacha and be perfectly fine, as it will be able to absorb all of the damage for us and give us major heroism for the extremely high ulti gen on that part. And with this, we are able to explain this is why this passive right here is one of the two passives that makes our rooting so powerful. Because our frozen devices, our gripping shards, and our Northern Storm all have a 200% higher chance to proc chilled to our enemies, which also applies minor mayhem, and if we have our blockade down, it will root them. We also have our frozen armor to give us 1,000 more 1,000 more spell and physical resistance on our back bar, and 1,500 on our front bar. We also have the reduced effectiveness of snares on us by 15%, and our frost damage is the key part that is increased by 10%. For our one-hand shield abilities, we have our traditional Ransack, Heroic Slash, and of course you would want your Absorb Missile here. We also have all of our two one-handed shield passives, as every one of them is very viable and very necessary for these builds. For our Destruction Staff, our key ones to know is we need our Elemental Blockade as well as Ellie Drain, Trifocus, Elemental Force, which is also going to increase our chances further to apply Chilled when we're on our back bar, and also Ancient Knowledge for the additional block mitigation and cost reduction on our Frost Staff. We're going with full heavy armor in this build, so we only need the heavy armor passives. Fighters Guild, if you want, you could get Banished the Wicked, not entirely important though. And for Undaunted, we want the last two passives, Sanguine Altar or the other morph, either is fine, and Inner Beast. And we have all of our Nord passives and Alchemy. The final thing we need to go over is just our champion points. With our champion points, we are running 20 into Warlord. We have 56 Arcanist, 19 Healthy, and 43 into Tenacity. We're also running 66 Shadow Ward and 66 Tumbling, just to provide us an additional cost to our block or roll dodge and block cost reduction. We are running 64 in Blessed, 66 Elfborn, 49 Elemental Expert, 40 Spell Erosion, and 51 Thaumaturge to not only boost our healing and our passive damage as much as humanly possible for us. In our red CP, we are running 56 Ironclad, 24 Spell Shield, 56 Hardy, 56 Elemental Defender, 56 Thick-Skinned, and 22 Heavy Armor. With this CP and how we're allocating, there's almost no scenario where we'll need to actually change this red CP, unless we desperately feel like we need to if we want to add more quick recovery, but we shouldn't necessarily need it as we do have the additional healing received in our Heavy Armor passives. But outside of that, guys, if anything else does come to mind, or if you have any other questions, don't be afraid to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts and any questions you have. Outside of that, please share with your friends, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you.